and welcome to the programme, which this week is a lesson in things that think they're other things. That's why I'm romping around in this. It's the new Toyota RAV4, an off-roader that thinks it's a hot hatch. And that's our kind of theme for the show, because Glenda McKay is going to be romping around Denmark and Sweden in the new Volvo V70 Cross Country, which is an estate car that thinks it's an off-roader. I'm going to be testing the new Mazda Mx-5, or a special edition of the Mazda Mx-5, a Japanese roadster that thinks it's a British MG. But first of all, Ginny Buckley tests the PT Cruiser from Chrysler, a hot rod that thinks it's an MPV.
And in true American style, Chrysler went big. From roller girls to a drive-in movie, no expense has been spared for this, the launch of their new retro motor. And this is one of those cars. It's Chrysler's PT Cruiser, and in their own words, it's way too cool to categorise. The look of the Cruiser is very different from anything else on the road, and at only £14,000 you certainly get a lot for your money. Everything from alloy wheels to a picnic table in the boot. The thing about the Cruiser is its versatility. It might appear to be small and compact, but you can easily fit in 5 adults with plenty of headroom. And it has a seating system that can be moved into 25 different positions. Just think of all the fun you can have trying them out. Now, whatever us Brits make of this American beauty, the first impressions on the road are pretty good. A bit strange, but overall good. So what about the performance then? Well, you really would expect this car to have something meaty like a V6 tucked under the bonnet. And unfortunately, I've got to report that what you get is a 2-litre 16 valve. So you can forget any ideas that you've got about pretending that you're in a dragster burning people off at the traffic lights. It's never going to happen. In fact, when you first get in it, it does feel a little bit slow at first, but once you're up and running, the engine feels quite punchy, and you can have a jolly good time nipping about some nice country roads like this. So who's going to buy the PT Cruiser then? Well, in a very clever marketing twist, this car is sensible enough to appeal to anyone's practical side. It looks just enough like a hot rod to get the younger generation drooling, and it has those retro touches that will get the oldies reminiscing. So it seems that anyone from 17 to 70 could well be a future driver, as long as they can get their hands on one, of course.
A lovely long line of pristine new Volvo V70 cross countries, and I'm in Denmark to test drive them. And this is my car. First stop is a very peculiar thing. It's a bridge that isn't open to the public yet and hasn't finished being constructed. What's so special about that? I'm going to go find out. Here I am driving along a lovely bridge in the sunshine, but this is no ordinary bridge. This is the first ever bridge between two countries, those countries being Denmark and Sweden, and it's a pretty long bridge, 16 kilometres long. In fact, it's the biggest ever erection that the Danes and the Swedes have managed. And in construction, of course. And you know, Volvo have managed to secure us a test drive across this bridge before it's even due to be open on the 1st of July. Not bad, eh?
The Øresund Bridge will ease traffic congestion and allow easy travel between Denmark and Sweden. Oh, and it's being built without any damage to the surrounding environment. Good, eh?
Here in Sweden at Nudgestop, we've just had a very nice lunch stop. And now, seriously, it's time to try the V70's capabilities on an off-road course that Volvo have especially set up for us. Let's give it a go. I am driving a car that you'd normally take all the kids to Sainsbury's in through a really big pit of water, and it's fine. It's so fine. Normally when I'm on roads like this, it's in the co-driving seat of a rally car, and it's going rah, really, really loud, and you can't hear yourself think. Going around this wood off-road track in this Volvo, listen. Can't hear a blooming thing. The engine is so quiet. It's amazing. The thing I don't like about it, I think, is that I don't know whether you can see, but I'm having to kind of like sort of peer over the bonnet. If you were sat in a normal kind of 4x4 like a Discovery or a Cherokee, you've got a much higher driving position and you can see the road ahead of you much more. With this, you're really quite low, and I find it a little bit disconcerting that I can't quite see when I'm driving over this kind of terrain. Traction control, get up this hill. Here we go, yay! Is it gonna do it? Are we gonna do it? You know we're gonna do it. Fantastic, that is brilliant. The V70 is a solid drive on the road, as you would imagine from a car like this, but surprisingly, when you're going around the corners, it's ever so light. The steering is light and it tends to wallow a bit. In fact, it oversteers slightly when you're on a road like this. And when I first got in the car, it was ever so slightly unnerving. Yeah, it feels solid, but it's all a bit wibbly wobbly on the top. I was speaking to one of the guys from Volvo earlier on, and he said that they've had to kind of compromise on the stability of the car when it goes around corners to get it right when it's off-road, and I agree with him there. I'm in the middle of Sweden and I'm lost. Where is it? Bastard. Oh, there it is. So that's how you spell it. Right, I know where I'm going now. They've got funny names here.
The Cross Country offers great flexibility. Not only does it offer the comfort of a luxury saloon and the safety of a standard V70 estate, but has substantially improved all-road abilities, which are previously only possible in an SUV.
Ah, it's nice here, isn't it? This is Tullochhoff and it's just down the road from Bastard. And boy, was I glad to get out of that place. It's full of a right bunch of Swedes. Anyway, as you can see, the shape of the car hasn't changed much. It's a bit wider, a bit further off the ground, and it's got these lovely, well, all right, brown bumpers. Volvo tell me that they've developed these so that when you're off-road, the car doesn't scratch as much as the colour-coordinated bumpers. Anyway, look, I can't stop long. I'm on my way to Smegham now. Sounds a nice place, doesn't it? Wonder what they do there.
The new Volvo Cross Country starts at just under 29k on the road, and it's based on the same platform as the V70 estate.
The ground clearance is 20.9 centimetres. Who'd have thought it? That is 1 millimetre more than the Cherokee and 1 millimetre less than the Discovery. And who'd have guessed it? Those few millimetres making all the difference. And us girls should know.
Safety, always a Volvo strong point, is unrivalled in the cross country, with dual-stage airbags, SIPs, side impact protection systems, whips, whiplash protection systems, and the IC, which is an inflatable curtain, which is all provided as standard.
What a fantastic day, and I've arrived now in Tylösand, Sweden. And look, there's the beach, and life is a beach, so I'm going to go and lie on it.
Just like people, cars grow up and change, sometimes for the better and sometimes not. The original Toyota RAV4 was a hooligan, a thug. It was ridiculously fast for an off-roader. This new version is far more refined, far more dignified, but it's still got a fairly nifty turn of speed when you need it. Nice. But if you've never grown up at all and you still have a hankering for the sports car you wanted in your youth, then stay with us, because after the break, I'm going to be driving a special edition of the Mazda Mx-5. The great British summertime. Boring cricket matches, curled up cucumber sandwiches, wind and usually no shortage of rain either. Oh, and a long-standing love affair with small, compact two-seater roadsters in which to explore those country roads. Mazda rekindled that love affair 10 years ago now with the arrival of the original Mx-5. And this, the Mx-5 Icon, is a special edition to celebrate that. At nearly £20,000, it's £2,000 more than a standard Mx-5 with a 1.8 engine. So what are we getting for our extra spondulix? A part that is from a decidedly dodgy colour. It's hardly inspiring for a party, is it? Purple. Years, eh? A decade and barely a wrinkle to show for it. This new shape Mx-5 in fact arrived a couple of years ago, and it got rid of the previous one's pop-up headlights in favour of these faired-in items and added a few extra curves and bulges. The result? Well, it just looks a little bit more grown up. In its 10 years, the handling of the Mx-5 certainly hasn't suffered. In fact, it's got steadily better to now be, well, quite a nippy little thing. It feels quite refined but subtle and sporty. The ride on this Icon Special Edition has been tweaked through the suspension, so it does feel quite firm and solid. You know you're in a little sports car. The more you drive it, the more you realise that 1.8 really is lacking in power, particularly in the mid-range. But that is definitely not the idea. You don't need huge reserves of oomph. Just get enough speed up and enjoy bowling along. Rear-wheel drive, of course, is the only way to go if you're going to be a proper two-seater roadster, and the Mx-5 does just that. It's quite happy to shake its tail free, though, if you're a little too eager with the right pedal in the corners. Mx-5s have always been quite a nice place to be. The cabin has a well-finished, understated feel to it, which is very pleasant. You don't feel there's anything gizmo or gimmicky about it. It all feels pretty purposeful and quite grown up for a small car. For a car that harks back to the likes of creaky old MGs and Spitfires, the Mx-5 Icon is pretty luxurious and sophisticated. But is that what it's really all about? Nearly £20,000 for a little two-seater roadster seems like a heck of a lot of money. Admittedly, the Mx-5 has in its 10 years achieved cult-like status, and perhaps for those who've owned a whole string of them, this is the ultimate. But for anybody looking to buy their first small two-seater roadster, I'd say maybe you should think about going a little further back to basics.
When I were a little lad and we had a fast car to drive, we used to pull on a pair of string-back driving gloves, just like Sterling Moss used to wear. Well, of course, nowadays your average saloon is twice as quick as the sports cars of those days. But just occasionally a new Euro box comes along that does demand something special in terms of hand gear. Because this is the Seat Leon 20T Turbo, 180 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds, a maximum of 140 miles an hour and a 6-speed gearbox. What are we waiting for? No, I'm not that much of a poser. This is the latest interpretation of the Volkswagen Group's policy of spreading engines and chassis frames around all the different marques in their group. So this new Leon shares the same platform as Golf, as Bora, as Skoda Octavia, Audi TT, and the 1.8 turbocharged engine is chipped up to 180 brake horsepower. That's 30 brake horsepower more than the installation in the Golf. So what's it like to drive? Well, with one blot on my otherwise unblemished licence, I'm not about to try and find out on open roads for the next couple of years at least. You need a private test track for that. But driving it as an enthusiastic, normal driver would on British roads, it's very quick. Although there's such a generous spread of torque from the turbocharged engine that I'm not at all sure why we're using a 6-speed gearbox. I suspect it's there for street cred more than anything else. With these big fat Pirelli P6000 tyres and the wide alloys, you'd expect adhesion and road holding to be very good, and it is. You can really throw this Leon around. But for my taste, they've strapped the suspension down a little bit too hard, and this ceaseless jogging over bumps and imperfections, even on quite smooth motorways, would really get on your nerves after a while. It's becoming fascinating to see how the different nationalities are interpreting what is basically the same chassis frame, how the Czechs, the Germans and the Spanish do it. This, after all, is the Seat Golf, is the Leon, as opposed to the Toledo, which is the Seat Bora, if you follow me. I think the Spanish have done a brilliant job, and this really looks good. And you can't dispute the fact, it really is a hot car. It's easy to spot various components from the Volkswagen corporate parts bin in the layout of the interior, although they haven't got those nice Venetian blind air outlets you get on Passat and Golf. Apart from that though, damped cup holder, a very nice stereo CD player, air conditioning and climate control, all as standard. It's difficult not to be impressed by the Leon 20T Turbo because it does everything so well. It's very quick, it holds the road well, and that 180 brake horsepower engine is a jewel. Best news of all is the price. This is £15,999 all in. Now the equivalent 5-door Golf GTI with only 115 brake horsepower is £1,000 more. So this car makes an awful lot of sense.
As off-roaders continue to grow in popularity, so they're increasing in diversity. So now they're certainly not all big macho mountain munchers. We've got lightweight soft-roaders, we've got estate car hybrids like this Subaru Legacy. But the one thing they do all have in common is we don't really expect them to be particularly economical. Generally, they're unaerodynamic, they're thirsty and bigger than they need to be, the pinnacle of motoring excess. What else could explain the existence of cars like the Range Rover and the Toyota Amazon? We love them big, brash and above all, expensively badged. Heck, we'll soon be able to buy BMW, Mercedes, Lexus and even Porsche off-roaders. There is, however, an alternative. Didn't you spot that coming? At least that's what these people at Tata would have us believe. Tata are another of these companies that we've never heard of over here, but are very big over there. In this case, over there being India, where they churn out bucket loads of rugged commercial vehicles. But now they've turned their attention to private vehicles, 4x4s, with this, new to these shores, the Safari. And they reckon it's going to offer us proper heavyweight off-roader for lightweight bucks. Got all the kit on board here, so on paper anyway, it should be able to tackle just about anything. We've got high and low ratio 4-wheel drive, and it's switchable between 4 and 2-wheel drive on the fly, as they say, which means on the move, up to about 40-45 miles an hour with this little switch down here. Then it's got automatic freewheeling and locking hubs, which lock and freewheel automatically, which is great and really important off-road, apparently. And it's huge! I can see 3 counties from here, it's massive, which I suppose is comforting off-road and quite handy on the road. And let's face it, on-road is where most off-roaders spend their time. Performance is hardly sparkling, but it will romp happily to 60 miles an hour, I just wouldn't want to put a time on it. As well as off-road equipment, there's all the goodies you need to keep you happy inside too. There's electrically adjustable door mirrors and windows, air conditioning, and even, in the enormous boot, an extra 2 seats, meaning the Safari can carry 7. Let's face it, the image conscious are never going to buy it. In fact, they'll avoid it like the plague in a flat cap. But if it can't sell itself on a prestigious badge, it might just sell itself by offering value for money and real off-road ability. In which case, farmers and those who really need off-road performance and perhaps a big cheap car may be saying ta-ta to their expensive Range Rovers and Discoveries. Get it? Ta-ta. Never mind. Look at that, an off-roader that thinks perhaps it's an MPV with removable rear seats. That's your lot for this week. Join us next week on Motor Week.